Alrighty, y'all. In earlier grades, you learned about different graphical displays, bar graphs, picture graphs, and tally charts. Graphical displays are a visual way to represent data. So, y'all's learning target today is I can ask questions and answer them based on graphical displays or ways the data is presented. So, today we're going to learn that we can interpret data presented on bar graphs to answer questions and make statements about the data. Okay, so looking at this graph and the problem or whatever posed says write two statements about the information presented in the graph. Okay, so before I try to write statements about the information in the graph, I need to take a moment to read the graph and make sure I understand what information is being given. The title gives me information that is helpful. The title of the graph is Favorite Video Games of Two Fifth Grade Classes. Okay, this means whoever created this graph asked the students in two different classes what their favorite video game was. I can look at the labels at the bottom of the graph and see what video games the children or the students were allowed to choose from. So I see Madden, MLB The Show, NBA 2K, that's Logan's favorite, EA Sports, FIFA, and NCAA football. On the left, it tells me the number of students that chose each game. When I look at the scale of the bar graph, I notice that it counts by twos. And the last number is 12. This means there were not more than 12 students that chose any of the games. So for each game, I notice two bars, a blue one and a green one. The key tells me that the blue bar represents the students in Class A, and the green bar represents the students in Class B. Okay, so this bar graph is about the favorite video games of the students in the two different fifth grade classes, Class A and Class B. Now that I have taken a moment to read the bar graph and get an idea of what information it represents, I can focus on what I'm being asked to do. I'm asked to write two statements about the information presented. I get to decide what these statements are. And honestly, there's a lot of information in this graph, so I should be able to come up with a lot of statements. One of the first things I noticed when looking at the graph is the tallest bars are for the game EA Sports FIFA. That means that it was the favorite game of both classes. I can write this statement as EA Sports FIFA received the most votes in Class A and Class B. I then notice that the shortest blue bar is for NCAA football. Class A only had 5 students choose this game. It is higher in Class 2. Class 2 had about 7 people choose the game. A statement that I could say for this one is 2 more students in Class B chose NCAA football as their favorite video game. Than in Class A. so we can interpret the data in the bar graph and use it to write statements about the data presented in the graphical display. I always want to take the time to read the graph to make sure I know what it is about before I write statements about the bar graph. So let's look at some statements, or moving on, let's look at some statements and determine if these statements can be said about the data in the graph. So which statements can be said based on the data in the bar graph? Okay, so I want to look at them. So it says, the first one says the least favorite game in Class B was MLB The Show. 2 fewer students in Class B chose MLB The Show than Class A. And no students chose NBA Jam as their favorite game. Okay, so the first thing I notice is NBA Jam, that wasn't even mentioned. So for this one, when it says no students chose NBA Jam as their favorite game, I can say that this cannot be said based on the data in the graph. Because NBA Jam is not a category so it might not have been, oops, sorry y'all. Part of the choices students were given to choose from for their favorite game. Yes, I know it's a lot, but I want to be able to support what I say. The next one I look at, I'm going to go back to the top. So the least favorite game in Class B was MLB The Show. So looking at the data, okay, Class B was our green class. So if I look, okay, it says about 9 students like Madden, about 6 students like MLB The Show, about 10 like NBA 2K, about 11 like FIFA, and 7 like NCAA football. So the least favorite game in the Class B, or in Class B, was MLB The Show. This can be said based on the data because it was the lowest green bar. All right, last one. It says 2 fewer students in Class B chose MLB The Show than Class A. Okay, so back to this one. We said 6 in Class B, and it says 8 in Class A. So, perfect. Yes, this can be said. So this can be said based on the data because 8 students in Class A chose this game and only 6 in Class B chose this game. Okay, so next, y'all will complete this on your own where you're going to create a question that could be answered using the information from the graph. However, I want to close with letting y'all know that when we are presented with any type of graph, we want to take a moment to read the graph and get an understanding of what the data is being shown or what data is being shown. Once we have an understanding of the data in the graph, we can work on answering any question or ask any question. We can also write statements based on the information in the graph.